Welcome to this new episode of the Blue Chair podcast, the podcast for women on a path of self reclamation. I'm Miha, and the Blue Chair is your refuge, a space where book becomes doors and stories become mirrors. We sit together and we speak honestly about the lives we are building away from expectations and conditionings, away from limitations and stories that keep us small. And today, we're joined by lovely Kate. Welcome, my dear. It's so good to have you here.
Oh, thank you for having me. First podcast I've ever done.
The first lucky one. So may it be the opening to many more.
Maybe.
And before we dive into it, if you can tell us and our listeners a bit more about you, like beyond, if we check your Substack, we can see some labels, but beyond those labels, who is the woman who has taken a seat in the blue chair?
Oh gosh, I am beyond my labels of mother. Should I give the labels first? Of mother of four and stage 4 cancer person. I am on a healing journey and really kind of discovering myself at the moment. And those labels have helped me to do that for sure, but they definitely don't define me as well.
So that brings us to the most important question in the blue chair, the one that we open our podcast with. What is a moment in your life that you consider a turning point towards self-reclamation?
As I said to you before we went live, I've sat and journaled this quite a bit today, and I probably will miss half of what I journaled out because it's really hard to answer. There is a definite point, but I think there's lots of points, as I think your last person in the chair, Jess, said, that leads up to that point. So the initial point was, I would say, my cancer diagnosis, which to some people might sound really sad that it took that to make it happen, but that's one of the real positives of my cancer diagnosis, because it really made me stop and get off the busy treadmill of being mum of 4. And I was a primary school teacher doing way too many hours. My husband worked away and I was just busy, spinning 100 plates. And obviously the diagnosis just turned my world upside down and made me stop. There wasn't a do you want to stop? It's like, you are absolutely stopping. You have absolutely no choice. Everything became out of my control, and I had to kind of let go of a lot of things. And it was kind of through that uncertainty and the darkness and not having any control that I started to find my own way. And yes, I've always, since the diagnosis, which obviously is a traumatic thing to go through, but once I started coming to terms with it, I've always lived my best life through it. It kind of, as most cancer patients I think would say, it kind of puts perspective on life, and you don't hold back in doing the things that you want to do. And we've actually done some amazing things, some things that we may have held back on if I hadn't have got cancer, because we've just gone, yeah, let's do the trip, let's have the day out, let's go to the concert, whatever. So we've managed to have some good times and some normality through it. But I think there was also a certain element of handing myself to the medical system and going along with what they tell me to do, which I'm also very grateful to all the care. I've had some amazing care. But now, over 4 years in, I had a bit of a turning point at the end of last year, because I'd had a whole year cancer-free, which was amazing. After it, so my cancer started off in my bowel, then it spread to my lung and my liver, my adrenal. So I had 3 open surgeries, 1 keyhole surgery, 20 rounds of chemo, kind of done it all. And it was when you're in that process, you don't really have time to process, and you don't really have time to question anything else or do anything else, because you kind of live from appointment to appointment, from chemo to scan to results to feeling rubbish to the day that you feel okay, and everything kind of has to fall around this pattern. Then when I had this year where all that was gone, and it was a really beautiful year, and we really lived life. I went to my last appointment that would have made it 1 year cancer free, and I got told at that appointment that some lesions had come back in my lung. So of course we were really devastated. But when I was thinking today about your question, I think that in my mind was probably, I would say, the turning point, because it was right then, after this year of living life. Of course I'd had the scan, so you can never completely get away from it all, and cancer's never going to completely leave your mind.
It becomes sort of part of your life, especially
yeah,
you have to go back for the scans recurrently every 6 months, a year,
it's
probably.
every 3 months. And up until 3 years I would have them every 3 months. But of course, when it's stage 4, it's not a happy thing to Google stage 4 cancer. So you can't help but always think, oh, what if it comes back, or have that fear in your mind. But when I went for that appointment and they told me that the cancer had come back, my husband was with me, and naturally he was devastated. But over this time I've put in so much research, and I haven't been a victim to my story. I'm no hero or anything at all, but I've had ups and downs all over the place. It's a complete roller coaster. But I've always thought I've got to help myself. I'm not just going to sit back and take the pills and have the infusions and rely on that. I've always looked for what else can I do. And when they told me that it'd come back, I just remember I kind of had no emotion, really. It was just, I just thought, what have I missed? I've done all of this. I've been meditating. I've been watching my diet. I've been doing all the things. And I just thought, what have I missed? And I just thought, I've still got something else to find. I've never taken it's never sat right with me to fight cancer, because it's in my body. And I just think it's in my body. I can't fight my own body. So I've really had to become friends with my body. At first, I think I looked at it as a bit of a like, how have you let me down like this? But then the more I've gone on, I'm like, wow, you're amazing, because you've been through all this. You've been cut open, you've been injected with poison, and yet you still keep me going. You still enable me to go walk my dog and see nature. And the more and more I've clung on to that gratitude and all the good bits of the present moments, it just fills my time with more love than fear, which is a really nice place. So I think I'd kind of got myself there when I had this news. And I just remember thinking, what have I missed? So in that appointment, instead of my oncologist is great, but he could only give me kind of a couple of options, really. Nothing new. We've tried everything. My cancer doesn't respond to immunotherapy or targeted treatment or anything else, so we could only really offer me more of what I've already had, and lung surgery. And whereas before I've kind of gone, okay, yeah, let's do that. I'll sign the papers, set me the dates, and da-da-da. This was about a couple of weeks before Christmas, and I just was like, I thought in my head, I'm not dying tomorrow. I'm going to go home. I'm going to think about this. I'm not going to make any decisions. It doesn't feel right in me to sign myself back up for chemo. And it wasn't out of being scared. I knew I could do it. If somebody told me, that was going to solve all my problems, I would absolutely jump back in the chair. But as I've been doing this work, my intuition has just been getting sharper and sharper. And whereas before, I think I've let my mind override it, because it's kind of scary to be led by your intuition as well. And it's, when you say to someone, oh, I've got cancer, but I'm thinking about not having chemo, they're like, what? That sounds crazy. And I was probably one of those people as well. But this time on, having put my body through all of this, knowing that I've already got a lot of poison in my body, also knowing chemo can kill you, then I think I was having all of these conversations with myself. So I took myself off, had Christmas with my family. Despite having this news, we had a really lovely Christmas. My kids are amazing, because obviously you go, it's not just when you have cancer, it's your whole family that
everyone
is burdened
affected
with this. It's very hard. They're all waiting for me to come home from the appointment and to go home and say, sorry kids, it's bad news and it's just before Christmas. And it was really difficult, but I think I kept it together, and I had this real positive, despite getting this crappy news, I had this real positive knowing that everything is going to be okay. And I knew, and I know this going forward now, that any time I'm in this kind of, oh my God, what shall I do? This panic, that I know that I need to take myself and have space, and I need to take myself away and to get any clarity, to find the way forward. So whilst we had this nice Christmas, things started happening. When things start happening for you, and I don't call them coincidences anymore. It's definitely synchronicity. Suddenly a friend
the
of mine,
snowball of Christmas.
and all these things just started happening. A friend of mine had 2 places come up on her yoga retreat up in Derbyshire, which is north of England, and she was like, just come, you need the time out. So I just went, yeah, that would be amazing, I'll go and do that. And then another friend of mine lent me Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life, which I've read so many books, and I know of that book, and how I'd not already read it, I don't know. But I think, again, the synchronicity of, I was meant to read it in December last year. That was the right time that I needed to read it.
You were ready right at that moment.
Absolutely, yeah. So I read that book, and then I was going to circles, and all these things started coming to me. And through the book and through a friend of mine, she said, "Oh, have you ever thought of having grief therapy? Because the lungs is what holds grief." So I was like, nobody's died around me though. But at the same time, I thought, well, I've got absolutely nothing to lose. Oh, yeah, let's go for grief therapy. And that was amazing. I think everybody should do grief therapy, because I had in my head, like, you sign up for it. Sounds a bit depressing, doesn't it? Grief therapy. And I thought, I'm going to go and have to.
We related to dying, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But we lose so many things in life, and we don't give it enough space. So
absolutely, yeah. And I think that it was the loss. I mean, there was, when I started it, I was surprised how much I'd been carrying and how much loss there had been in my life. And especially 30 years ago in particular, there was a period throughout my teens, which is, as I know now, a really important part of your growing up, of your maturity and growing up. And I lost a few people then. And I just never had the space, the time, I say the guidance, but at the same time, there's no blame with me saying that, because back in those days, it wasn't a thing. I don't think anyone around me knew how to deal with the things we were going through, let alone teach me how to deal with it. So, so it kind of unraveled so much stuff. I was just shocked what I had in there that I'd been clearly boxing up and carrying around with me. And it's strange because it actually wasn't horrible. It was really, I came away from each session feeling so much lighter, and I still, I mean, it didn't make the tumours go away, but I do think it had a definite healing impact on my whole being. You know, I don't feel like I'm carrying that. And it's weird because, as I said, I didn't even really know it was like a subconscious carrying. But I just feel so much better from having that. And just having the grief therapy led to other synchronicities and lovely things. I started writing. The lady that did the grief therapy asked me to be in contact with another lady that asked me to write a chapter in a book about why women need space, which was really relevant, and I've been doing that, which I've really enjoyed. So yeah, and then I got in touch with my oncologist and said, look, I've had all this time to think. I've been doing. I didn't really explain all the things I've been doing because he doesn't really have the time or that kind of space to take it on. He's lovely and he absolutely wants the best for me, but you know,
this is a different approach, and people need to be ready to accept it.
So it was just a kind of, thank you for the offer of chemo, but right now that doesn't seem right for me. And it was all very like, I was in the chair saying, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'd like from you. And and even one of the nurses said to me, you know, I'm a typical people pleaser. Half the reason why I got into this pickle in the first place, I think, because I spent all my life people pleasing, and my silly mind was thinking, oh my goodness, those nurses are so lovely. They're going to be so disappointed in me that I'm not going back for chemo. I'll have hurt their feelings. And then when I went, because I think I had to go into the unit for something, and one of them stopped me and she was like, I think this is really amazing that you've kind of said no and you've took back your control and that you're kind of calling the shots more. And and it just, and it was really, you know, it was not an easy decision, as you can imagine. It was, and I had conflicting advice, and when you're Googling stuff, it was, my mind was just in turmoil. And back in January, there just felt like so much uncertainty. But then once I'd made the decision and I had that clarity, I just thought, right, this is the decision. It's the right decision. And we're going forward with that now. And I'm not going to look back and I'm not going to doubt it. And once I'd done that, and I kept just taking, throughout this whole journey, I've always said, I just take these little steps forward. And they only have to be tiny. And sometimes they might feel like they're going backwards, but then they go forwards again. And it came to the week before I would have started chemo, which happened to be also the week where one of my kids was going to start their A-levels and one of them was going to start their GCSEs. And I was just thinking, oh my goodness, I'm so glad I'm not going there as well. And I've just taken on this whole, really trying to get to the root cause of my cancer, and really trying to heal my body as a whole, and concentrating on the terrain and creating a peaceful environment in my body, from mind, body, soul, you know, every cell, to just make it a joyful place that the cancer doesn't want to live there anymore. It can just live with love. And that might sound all very kind of woo-woo, but it feels right for me. And recently as well, I saw a spirit, what's she called, a spiritual channeled healer, and she said, your body can't heal when it's in fight, flight and fear. And that really resonated with me. And she said, you know, you're doing all these, you're doing all the things, but the thing that you just have to keep working on is all the invisible stuff. It's the mind stuff, the meditating, the keeping, because throughout this, it's the mind work is the really tricky stuff. in any challenge people we have, once fear gets in, we just spiral away, don't we, into thinking all these worst case scenarios. And now just having an awareness of that, I keep taking myself back when I go off, and I'm just kind of the fear does come back in here and there. I'm human, but I've got so much gratitude and so much joy in the present. And nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow.
Exactly.
And I just
no one's guaranteed tomorrow.
Exactly. And I've lost people over this 4 years that haven't had cancer that I had no idea I was going to lose. And you just and of course on this journey as well, I've met people with cancer and I've lost them too. And that's really, really tricky, because then you have even survivor's guilt of, why am I still here and they're not? I'm not any more deserving than them. And there's some real tricky things that go on in your mind constantly. And being a mum, you can imagine your mind just spirals because you just want to be in their life forever. But yeah, I feel like I'm really loving life for the best part. And but I do think it stems from when I looked at that question, I had like a snapshot of walking out of the hospital, being told I've got these tumours, and me just going, right, this is no time for crying and getting emotional. Not judging anybody that does that, because that's fine too. But I just thought, no, I need to just figure out what have I missed here. I'm a Virgo, so I'm one for detail. So I'm like picking through, what do I need?
Organization, detail,
yes,
thoroughness. Yeah. Let's do it. No, we'll cry later.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that makes my mind crazy as well. So this lady was right. It is the stuff that I need to work on. Is all the mind stuff, and just stopping, slowing, being still.
I would like to mirror a little bit and to tell you that even your body language, when you were talking about making the decision, is like what your back was straightening and you were radiating, and it feels like, yes, it was the right decision, and all this digging and the journey and the digging and going back and forth and up and down and searching for all the answers, and in the end accepting the journey. But you wrote something, I had to treat myself like I was my own child. That impressed me. You wrote it at one point.
Yeah, I think
what did it look like? Could you take us more into it?
That was a real big thing for me, because I've had this conversation with quite a lot of women, that it sounds, when you are a people pleaser and you put yourself at the bottom of the pile, it sounds really horrible and really harsh, but it wasn't, because that's just what I liked to do. I wasn't beating myself up. I just enjoyed looking after everybody else first. And I think that is a trait of a lot of people. But I also think this kind of people, there is like a Cancer personality, which seems to very much fit doing these things as well. But it really, the more I got worried and in fear of not being there for my kids and trying to figure out, right, how am I going to be there? I thought, well, really the only way to be in their life is that I have to be first in my own life, which was like a real like, oh my God, I can't, how am I going to do this? Like, be the first in my own life. It doesn't come naturally to me at all. So I had to really work hard at that, and really make some boundaries and some non-negotiables. And it was tricky. I've put some things into place, and I go to things now, whereas normally I used previous me would think, oh no, I can't go to that because they might need me or whatever. And now I'm just like, I'm going to this. Yes, mum's out again, but just remember, I'm doing it for us. And it's not like I'm going out clubbing and drinking every night. Everything I do is and even that I'll never do that again, but that makes me happy, to be honest, because those kind of thing doesn't attract me anymore. But yeah, I really having to learn to love yourself, every part of yourself, and put yourself first is not as easy as it sounds.
No, it's a learning process.
Yeah.
Like we unlearn the people pleasing. Oh God, I was about to say self-pleasing,
Yeah.
but is yes, bringing us joy. And you were mentioning right now about loving every part of yourself. But is there something that no longer exists? Is there a part of you that's left?
Yeah, for sure. I think, and that was part of the grief therapy as well, because, up to the cancer diagnosis, I thought I was, you kind of have a subconscious life plan mapped out of who you are and what's going to happen. And all of a sudden, I had no idea what was going to happen. And yeah, there was just no, nothing that was for sure in my life. And so through the grief therapy, I had to kind of let go of that person that I was, that very busy person that listened to everybody's problems, that was drained by everybody's problems, that spun all the plates and said yes to everybody and worked too many hours. And I definitely had to let that person go. And part of me at first, we had a really happy life up until the cancer diagnosis. So there was that part of me that thought, oh, we were so happy. But actually, obviously it's not a card that I would pull, but it's taught me so much, so many positive things, actually, and that I live a much more gentle, softer, nicer life to myself. Because when I look back, I was really not very nice to myself. I didn't physically, I did too much in every way. I didn't speak to myself very nicely. I put myself at the bottom of the pile. Yeah, and subconsciously, another thing when I learned was actually I'm teaching my kids this, particularly my girls, and I've got 2 girls and 2 boys, and that was another. Every time it gets a bit tricky for me to put myself first, I think, remember what you're teaching the kids. Remember, you're by not putting yourself first, you're teaching them put yourself at the bottom. So I'm kind of, this has all helped me to think, what can I teach the kids? Like, how can I look at it in a positive way? Because at first I felt so much guilt. It was all, oh my God, what have I done to them? I've put everybody through all this sadness, all this worry. I hated myself for what I had brought upon everybody else. And then I realised, I'm not going to be a victim to it. I'm going to take responsibility for the things that I can do for it. And I'm going to show my kids, we go through difficult times, whether it be cancer, whatever it be, we will have challenges of some sorts in our life, and we don't have to go to pot. At the same time, I also try to show them it's okay to cry, it's okay to feel ill, it's okay to stop. Because I spent so many years suppressing all these emotions, thinking, we've got an English thing is you have to have a stiff upper lip and carry on.
Yes.
Keep calm and carry on, and or definitely the carry on bit. And I thought, no, they need to know it's okay for mum to not feel
carry
great.
on, not to be the
and
good woman
that's it. And at
anymore.
some points, that was hard for them to see, because I was so busy and so good at doing everything. When I did stop, they were like, oh my goodness, what's wrong with mum? Why has she stopped? And I was just like, I'm feeling rubbish today, so I'm just going to have a day looking out the window, cuddling the dog on the sofa. And they were like, okay, she's feeling rubbish today, it's going to pass, hopefully tomorrow will be better. And it usually is. I mean, sometimes I tell people now that have been recently diagnosed, that speak to me, I'm like, you can have the most rubbish morning and have a great afternoon. I just take hour by hour, day by day, just, not let my mind spiral off. And yeah, these tricky times pass, and we just have to really make the most of the good moments, which even with cancer, there are many.
The joy on an ordinary day, or a less ordinary day in and it looks like you are embracing joy, and as I mentioned it, you radiate it, and thank you for sharing it with us. And another thing that I've noticed in our interactions and in your writing also, the stillness. Stillness is a theme that keeps showing up, and the stillness beneath the surface, and as you say, embracing that there are rubbish mornings or days or evenings, but it's not the doing nothing, that stillness of the body, or just the doing nothing, but I feel like it's the stillness of trusting life.
Yeah.
Enough, as you mentioned, I'm not fighting against cancer. I'm not fighting against my body.
Yeah.
How would you
the stillness
guide us to get there, to the stillness?
I think just having an awareness of needing the stillness, because at first the stillness was kind of forced upon me because I was at times too poorly to be anything but still, which was frustrating initially. But then I kind of thought, right, how can I use this time? And if I felt well enough, then I would read and discover things and research, but also to read. This is how I met you in the book club, fictional books. I love reading and just taking my mind to somewhere else. And I thank you for that, because I've read some books with you that I probably wouldn't have chosen, and they've been awesome. I really, really love the book club. But the stillness, I think, is one of the most important things that has come through for me, because one, for the clarity when I have those times of real uncertainty and darkness. I've got a friend of mine that she got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer about 10 years ago, and she's like full of vitality and she's amazing. So she's kind of been my guru, and sometimes I'll ring her and go, she's called Kate as well. I'm like, Kate, what do I do? And she says, just cut everyone else off, go sit in a room on your own, be still, be quiet, and the answers will come to you. And it's true, they come. It comes to me. I don't know where. Well, it comes from me because it's in me. It's within us. But I think the other beautiful thing that I've found more this year is that actually, if you give yourself stillness, then you start creating as well, and you start having ideas pop into your mind of things that you can do. And that's a side of myself that I'm discovering, because I've always been too busy to find that part of myself. And through that stillness, things are coming up. The writing that I'm doing, the book club, it's even doing this, and that's really beautiful. And that's something I didn't expect. And I think creativity has a really important role in healing as well. Having a purpose, doing something that you love. And when we're too busy and we don't have that stillness, we don't have any time for that to come through. So we're stopping ourselves from discovering our own gifts, which is a really horrible thing.
So we have to unlearn the busyness and to relearn the stillness and embracing that. Yeah. And I would like to, you were talking in the beginning about the gratitude, and I would like to go full circle. Could you say that, you've started practicing gratitude, and you've started looking at cancer as not as something to fight, not necessarily as a blessing, but something that brought you also positive things and helped you look at life differently. So
Yeah, I think.
Would you like to say that it became a way of life, gratitude for you?
Yeah, for sure. I think. Yeah, no one could ever say they're grateful for having cancer, but I'm grateful for what it's taught me that I wouldn't have known without it. I wouldn't have had time to know. I'm grateful for the stillness. I'm grateful for the communities that I've become part of and the people that I've met, some really amazing people. And yeah, I think just there's always something to be grateful for, and the more that we hold on to that gratitude, the more we attract it. Yeah, I'm losing my train of thought now. Sorry, I was going to say something interesting there, but I've forgotten what I was going to say.
Our whole conversation was really, really interesting. I have one more question. Imagine you are standing up from the blue chair, and our conversation is ending, and something of you remains here for the next woman who sits down. What would you like her to find waiting for her?
A big hug. I think we all need so many hugs. And I know virtual hugs is you do this. My grief therapist was virtual, and she taught me this hug. But I think actually that brings me back to the gratitude of doing something for other people as well. When you can share, and as I said to you before the live, this is so out of my comfort zone. I don't like being center of attention or anything, but I think when we're in this position, if we can share something of our story and it can help somebody else, there's some really exciting, because that's kind of how I've chosen to approach it, the way I'm moving forward with my health. It's a lot of the cancer approaches is so archaic. Things haven't changed for such a long time, but there are new things going on, which are quite exciting. And I feel like I'm a tiny little part in paving that way forward. And if we can all ripple it out and share those things and give hope and, share. When I was newly diagnosed, looking for those stories of people surviving, people thriving. And if I can be that for one person, then I'm really grateful for that, and I feel that's I'm blessed to be able to do that. So a great big hug.
A great big hug. Thank you so much. I am really grateful for having you, for being able to hold space for you here in the blue chair, and for you, so that you can share your story. And thank you so much. May you live a little lighter, a little truer, and a little closer to yourself. You, Kate, and everyone listening to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mia. And I'll see you at the next Blue Chair Book Club.
See you in a bit. And until the next time, everyone, the chair is always here. Thank you so much, Kate.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.